everyone. Welcome. This is your host, Leani, with another episode of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. I know it's been a minute, but I'm back. And I want to thank all of you who have been listening and people who have sent in topic requests and ideas. It humbles me that you guys even want to listen to me, let alone listen to me talk about specific things. So this topic I've actually wanted to do for a while. I have done a couple posts about it way back when. I'm sure they've been lost at this point. It's been a few years. But it's a topic that doesn't get discussed enough, and one that is pretty relevant to myself and the things I write and what I do. So this topic is fanfiction counts as real writing. I know, super controversial apparently, because there seems to be this strange, well, I guess not strange, there's a stigma with fanfiction. And for some reason, a lot of people don't consider it, quote, real writing, which I don't even know what that means. The idea of something creative not being real just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm going to just put this out there before I continue. If you write fan fiction, you're still a writer. If that's what you only write, you're still a writer. You are literally creating a story and physically writing something. So don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Fan fiction counts as writing. I have been writing fan fiction pretty much since I started writing. I think my earliest forms of writing, without realizing it, were fan fiction, taking characters and scenes that I liked from particular TV shows and movies, and then writing my own story for them. That's how I started. It's in my blood at this point. I am 32 and I will continue to write fan fiction. So for those of you who don't know, it's taking characters that you don't necessarily create or own, or even, a place or anything like that, and using it in your own writing. Because of that, again, there seems to be a debate on whether or not writing fan fiction counts as, quote, real writing. And as I said a couple of seconds ago, it does. When I first started writing fan fiction, I kept it to myself, not because it was fan fiction, but because I was insecure about my writing in general. I didn't let many people read my writing, or any people at all. It wasn't until I got a little older and until I found, at the time, the premier fanfiction site, fanfiction.com, because it was .com when I found it. That's how old I am, children. It switched to .net sometime after that. One of my friends introduced me to Harry Potter fanfiction, and that was it. I was hooked after that. This friend knows who she is. I've told her a billion times, and she's well aware on how that definitely changed the trajectory of my writing career. And I think the reason why I gravitated towards it so much was because it made me realize I wasn't the only one out there. And after reading a bunch, I decided to try my hand at posting my own. They were terrible. They were awful. I was 12. But I learned a pretty valuable lesson. One, I needed to work on my writing skills. Two, not all stories are for everybody. And 3, people on the internet suck. I learned those lessons at a very early age. Yet I still kept writing fan fiction and posting it because it became a comfort. There's something about that instant feedback and instant gratification that you don't get with a lot of other kinds of fiction writing. A lot of the time, you only receive feedback from readers if you're lucky enough to be published. And not all of us are. So fan fiction definitely offers that instant gratification, that feedback, that reaction to your writing to let you know what you're doing good, more likely what you're doing terribly, and what you need to improve on, which actually has been a huge help for me over the years. And obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that, because fan fiction has been around for a very, very, very long time. As long as people have been writing fictional stories, other people have been writing fan fiction about those stories. I don't want people to think that it's just some fad, that it's just something that's going to pass, because I am 32, and fan fiction was around even when I was a young 10-year-old starting out, even way before that. So no, it is not a fad. It is not going away. You will always find people who will be writing fan fiction. And I think the staying power of fan fiction proves how important it can be to the creative process. I'm not gonna lie, there have been several times where I've been like, well, I'm not gonna write fan fiction. I am just gonna focus on my original work. And I'm never gonna write fan fiction again. Clearly that didn't work out. And I was under some kind of hoity-toity guise that fan fiction was beneath my writing capabilities. This is all bullshit, and something I learned very, very quickly, because I didn't realize at the time how important fan fiction was to me, because I write fan fiction for myself. I don't write it for other people. I think that's the key to really enjoying fan fiction, is to write for yourself, which, I mean, most people say that in general, write for yourself, don't write for anybody else. That's easier said than done. Especially if you're like me and you're ghostwriting. My job is to literally write for other people. So that actually makes fan fiction even more important for me right now, because it's one of the few writing pieces I do just for myself. I have some original work that I'm working on, but for the most part, a lot of my energy at the moment is ghostwriting, which, for those of you who kind of put 2 and 2 together, ghostwriting and fan fiction are very, very similar. And I actually got my first ghostwriting job because I write fan fiction. So for those who need a little bit more background, ghostwriting is when somebody has an idea for a story, including characters, usually, and they hire me to write that story for them. So I am taking a place and plot and characters that are not my own, and I am writing a story for them, which is very similar to fan fiction. There's a lot of crossover there. So if you're interested in ghostwriting, fan fiction's a great tool for that, and a great way to practice your ghostwriting skills. I didn't even know that I was doing that. I just did fan fiction because I liked it. But when I was applying for my first ghostwriting position, I had to submit writing samples, and I realized that I only had fan fiction samples to choose from. So I had a little bit of an internal debate whether or not to even try to apply, because everywhere online is like, don't tell them you write fan fiction, don't tell them you write fan fiction. But I was applying to ghostwrite romance novels, so I figured my fan fiction was pretty on the nose for a lot of that. And as terrifying as it was, I decided to just go with it. So what I ended up doing, using 2 fanfiction stories that I was incredibly proud of as examples to share of my writing. And then I believe I also did 1 chapter of one of the original stories that I had written. And that particular company was actually pretty impressed with my samples, thankfully. Not just because they felt I was a good writer, but it also showed that I could take other people's characters and create a story with them, which is very important for ghostwriting. That's the whole shtick. For those who are looking to use fanfiction for writing samples, 2 things. Make sure they are very, very well proofread, and put them in their own Word document. Format them as they would be formatted for a manuscript. I cannot stress this enough. Do not link to your fanfiction page. That's just a recipe for disaster. Because there may be some stuff on there that doesn't pertain to the project you're applying for, or is not proofread. It's a little messier. So if you are looking to share fanfiction as writing samples, put them in their own Word document, format them correctly, and send the potential employer the Word document, just to be on the safe side. For the most part, I think one of the misconceptions for fanfiction is that anybody can write fanfiction. It's not true. It's not. What I think people don't realize when writing fanfiction, you're actually honing some very specific skills. First off, you're writing within other people's parameters, which is very, very difficult to do. Most of us creative types have our own specific way of doing things. So when you're writing fanfiction or ghostwriting, you can't necessarily always follow your own way. So fanfiction really helps hone that skill of writing in somebody else's parameters or world, or writing somebody else's character, while staying consistent to the material or the story. And fanfiction also helps you hone the creative problem-solving skill, which every writer and artist needs. Inevitably, when you are creating something, it's not going to go to plan. So you have to do some creative problem-solving. So people say, oh, they just write fanfic. There's no such thing as just writing fanfiction. You are a writer. You are building your writing skills, whatever they may be. You are a writer. Whether you write original work, whether you write a screenplay, whether you write fiction or nonfiction or fanfiction or everything in between, you're still a writer. You are still taking words from your head and putting them on a page. That's a writer. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You are a writer. Own that shit. Keep doing what makes you happy. As long as your writing isn't hurting yourself or anybody else, just go for it. Doesn't matter if it's, quote, only fan fiction. There's no such thing. Take all those bias and throw them out the window. In addition to that, if you don't feel like creating your own world or creating your own characters, if you're happy writing fan fiction and you don't want to branch out into other types of writing, that's fine too. That's perfectly fine. Again, you're still a writer. Good on you. Keep doing you. So that is essentially what I wanted to say on that topic. As I said before, I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time because fanfiction is very important to me. And I have found it helps me so much when I'm working on other writing projects. I always end up coming back to fanfiction. Always. And there have been a lot of ideas that I've come up with during my time writing fan fiction for my own original work. It's sort of like, at least for me, it's sort of like when you're in the shower and you get that idea for whatever that you've been trying to think about for a while. That's just been going on in the back of your head. I get a lot of those when I'm writing fan fiction because it's comfortable for me and it's something that I use to relax and just unwind. And a lot of times, because I take the time to take a breath and breathe and work on something just for fun, the thing that I need to work on to put food on the table actually benefits from that. So I'll say it one final time. There's no such thing as, quote, real writing. Fan fiction is writing. It counts. Period. End of story. Well, that's all I have for this week. Thank you for listening to episode 6 of I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. If you have any questions, comments, topics that you'd like me to cover, I am here for that. Just shoot me a message on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, my website, Patreon. I am everywhere. I am everywhere. You can find me online. And I'd be more than happy to chat and possibly add your suggestion to my list of upcoming episodes. All right. Thanks, guys. Love you. Talk to you soon. Bye.